Once upon a time, nestled between rolling hills and a dense ancient forest, there was a small, humble village. The people there were simple and hard-working, but times were often tough, and many knew the sharp pang of hunger. Among them lived a young man, a woodcutter by trade. Known throughout the village not for his strength or skill with an axe, but for his exceptionally kind heart. Every morning, just as the first rays of sunlight pierced through the misty canopy, he would venture deep into the forest. His day was spent swinging his axe, the rhythmic thud echoing through the trees. He would gather the fallen wood, bundle it onto his back, and carry the heavy load back to the village market. His earnings were meager, usually just enough to buy a small portion of rice, barely enough to sustain him for another day of hard labor. Yet, he never complained. He was grateful for what he had, even if it was just a simple bowl of rice. One scorching afternoon, the sun beat down mercilessly. Exhausted and drenched in sweat, the woodcutter decided to take a rest by a cool, babbling stream. He sat under the shade of a large willow tree and took out his modest meal for the day, a small, plain bowl of white rice. As he was about to take his first bite, he noticed a figure huddled by the water's edge. It was an old man, his clothes tattered and worn, his face etched with lines of hardship and fatigue. He looked incredibly weak, his eyes half closed, as if he hadn't the strength to even keep them open. It was clear he was faint from hunger. The young woodcutter's heart went out to him. He looked at his own small meal, his only food for the entire day, and then back at the frail old man. Without a second thought, he walked over. "Sir," he said gently, "you look like you need this more than I do." He offered his bowl of rice to the stranger. The old man's eyes flickered open, and a look of surprise crossed his face. He saw the genuine compassion in the young man's eyes and accepted the food with a grateful nod. He ate slowly, savoring each grain, and with every bite, a little strength seemed to return to him. When the bowl was empty, the old man looked up at the woodcutter, his eyes now clear and bright. A warm smile spread across his face. "Young man," he said, his voice surprisingly strong, "you have a truly kind and generous soul. In a world where so many think only of themselves, you shared your only meal with a stranger. Such kindness should not go unrewarded." The old man reached into the folds of his worn robe and pulled out a simple, unassuming object. It was a small, wooden tray, beautifully carved but otherwise ordinary looking. He handed it to the woodcutter. "Take this," he said. "It may not look like much, but it holds a special magic. When you are hungry, simply place the empty tray before you. Clap your hands 3 times and say the words, 'Magic tray, bring me food.'" The woodcutter looked at the tray, puzzled but intrigued. "A magic tray?" he asked. The old man just smiled knowingly. "Trust me," he said. "Your kindness has earned you this gift. Use it well." The young man, overwhelmed with gratitude, thanked the old man profusely. He turned to say one last thank you, but the old man had vanished as mysteriously as he had appeared, leaving the woodcutter alone by the stream, with the wooden tray in his hands. Skeptical but hopeful, the woodcutter finished his work and headed home. That evening, his stomach rumbled with hunger. He remembered the old man's words and decided to give it a try. He placed the empty wooden tray on his small table, took a deep breath, and clapped his hands 3 times. In a clear voice, he said, "Magic tray, bring me food." For a moment, nothing happened. He felt a little foolish, but then a soft glow emanated from the tray, and right before his very eyes, a wondrous feast began to appear. There was steaming hot rice, savory roasted chicken, a variety of fresh vegetables, and even a sweet pudding for dessert. The aroma filled his small hut, a scent more delicious than anything he had ever imagined. He could hardly believe his luck. He ate until he was completely full, a feeling he hadn't experienced in years. From that day on, the young woodcutter's life was transformed. He never went hungry again. But his kind nature remained unchanged. He didn't just use the tray for himself. He remembered the hunger he had once known and saw it every day in the eyes of his fellow villagers. So every evening, he would invite his neighbors, especially the children and the elderly, to share in the magical feast. His small hut became a place of joy and laughter, a haven where no one was turned away. Word of the miraculous tray and the woodcutter's generosity soon spread throughout the region. People spoke in hushed, amazed tones about the man who could create endless food from an empty piece of wood. Unfortunately, these whispers eventually reached the ears of the village's landlord. He was a man whose heart was as cold as his wealth was vast. He was greedy, cruel, and despised seeing anyone else happy, especially the poor. When he heard about the magic tray, his eyes gleamed with avarice. He didn't see a tool for kindness. He saw an object of immense power and wealth that he had to possess. One night, the landlord devised a wicked plan. He invited the unsuspecting woodcutter to his grand mansion, pretending he wanted to praise him for his generosity. He offered him fine wine, which was secretly drugged. The kind-hearted woodcutter, who always saw the best in people, suspected nothing. He drank the wine and soon fell into a deep sleep. While he was unconscious, the greedy landlord stole the magic tray and replaced it with an identical, ordinary one. He then had his servants carry the woodcutter back to his hut. The next morning, the woodcutter awoke with a pounding headache, remembering little of the previous night. That evening, as usual, his hungry neighbors gathered at his door. He smiled, brought out what he thought was his magic tray, and confidently clapped his hands. "Magic tray, bring me food," he declared. But this time, nothing happened. The tray remained empty. He tried again and again, his voice growing more desperate with each attempt, but the magic was gone. Confusion turned to sorrow as he realized his precious gift had been stolen. He had to turn away the disappointed villagers, his heart breaking with shame and sadness. Devastated and heartbroken, the woodcutter knew he had been tricked. His thoughts immediately went to the only other place he had found magic: the forest. The next day, he journeyed back to the stream where he had first met the mysterious old man. He sat by the water's edge, his head in his hands, hoping for a miracle. And just as before, the old man appeared beside him, his expression calm and understanding. "I know what has happened," the old man said gently. "A good heart has been wronged by a greedy one, but do not despair. Greed must always be taught a lesson." This time, the old man presented the woodcutter with another object. It was a short, thick stick. "This is no ordinary stick," the old man explained. "It will not bring you food, but it will bring you justice. Go to the landlord's house. When he tries to use the stolen tray, this stick will know what to do. It will only stop when he agrees to return what is rightfully yours." With a renewed sense of hope, the woodcutter took the magic stick and hurried towards the landlord's mansion. Meanwhile, the landlord was preparing to host a lavish banquet for his wealthy friends to show off his new treasure. He placed the stolen tray on a grand table and, in a booming voice, clapped his hands and shouted the magic words. But instead of a feast, the stick the woodcutter was carrying suddenly leaped from his hands. It flew through an open window and began to beat the landlord relentlessly. "Ouch, ouch, stop. What is this?" he shrieked, cowering as the stick thumped and thwacked him from every direction. His guests fled in terror. The stick showed no mercy, chasing the landlord around the room. "Stop, please, I'll do anything," he finally cried out in pain and desperation. From outside, the woodcutter shouted, "Return the magic tray and the stick will stop." Terrified and bruised, the landlord immediately confessed and shoved the tray back out the window. The moment the woodcutter touched his tray, the stick stopped its assault and flew gently back into his hand. The landlord, humbled and sore, never dared to bother the woodcutter again. The young man returned to his village, not with vengeance in his heart, but with relief. He once again used the magic tray to provide for everyone in need. The village flourished, and hunger became a forgotten memory. The woodcutter taught everyone that the greatest magic of all wasn't the tray that provided food, but the kindness in one's heart that chooses to share it. And so, thanks to one kind woodcutter, the entire village lived happily and full-bellied ever after. Thank you so much for watching this story with us. If you enjoyed it, please give this video a thumbs up and do not forget to subscribe to our channel for more wonderful tales. See you next time.